Good evening, listeners. This is the Ghostly Broadcast, Paranormal Station. I am your host, Timothy. On my farm, as the icy tendrils of winter creep through my fallow fields and hang from my windows, there is a particular draw to the isolated hovels, homes, and cabins where one can find themselves staying, for vacation or otherwise. Tonight's testimonies come from such places: the cabins in the woods, the locations where one can be alone in the dark for miles around. We venture to North America for our first testimony of the evening. Dear Timothy, I am Dylan. I don't know how many days it's been now. The hours and days have blurred and I've lost track of time, but I'm sure it hasn't been more than a week since I came here with Sky, my fiancée, now. That was the whole point of the trip. I wanted to take us both out for a long weekend at a cabin. We always used to joke that if we were stuck on a desert island, we'd be happy as long as we had each other. Our first morning there, we hiked out for a breakfast picnic. In a beautiful clearing, as the sunbeams broke through the canopy of conifers, I got down on one knee and proposed. Sky was overjoyed as she muttered yes through happy tears. I was outside bringing some more logs in for the fire that night when I heard a rustle in the dark undergrowth. I squinted out into the night, looking for whatever was out there. A deer or a raccoon. I just hoped it wasn't a bear. "Did you hear that?" asked Sky, standing at the door with a blanket wrapped around her. "Yeah, but I don't see anything," I said. Sky beckoned me back inside. I was at the door's threshold, carrying the logs in my arms, when we heard the rustle again. This time, it was followed by a low, deep growl. The spines on the back of my neck stood up. A shock of adrenaline shot straight into my chest. I turned slowly and cautiously to see the growling, snarling creature. The thing stood on two legs like a man, but it was thin, skeletal, and 8 feet tall with long, spindly claws. A wide mouth of sharp fangs hung slack below glinting yellow eyes. Sky screamed, and the thing darted towards her. I dived in front of it and swung the only thing I had on hand, one of the logs of firewood. I fumbled, and it launched out of my hand, striking the creature in the mouth. It swiped at me as the log landed, sending it to the ground. I picked the log back up and hit it again, but it darted into the woods. Sky dragged me back into the cabin. "What the fuck was that?" she yelled. "I don't know," I said. "Dylan, your arm." I looked down at my forearm and saw blood oozing out of deep claw marks. Sky tended my wounds while I tried to call 911, but there was no signal for miles. We thought it best to wait out the night and leave in the morning. I wish we just left then and there. That night, I was restless with a fever. I couldn't stop sweating, but I felt cold. My stomach was in knots, and I was delirious. After getting up to look for another blanket, I returned to the bedroom to see Sky fast asleep. She looked so peaceful, Timothy. My beautiful bride-to-be, my entire world. I stood over her at the side of the bed in a trance. I felt my jaw slacken and the sour sting of glands in my mouth. Drool poured from my dry, cracked lips. My hands and nails ached. "Dylan?" Sky sighed without opening her eyes or really waking up. I don't know how it happened, but I was conscious of everything. I couldn't stop it. I ripped my fiancée to pieces with my bare hands. I bit down into her neck and drank huge gulps of blood. When it was over, there was barely anything left of her. I slumped down into the blood and gristle and wept. I've been locked away in this cabin since, as the sickly sweet smell of rot has set in. Now I'm feeling sick. My hair's falling out and my nails have come off. Writing this letter is agony, but I need to get it out. I need to suffer for what I've done. There's a P.O. box further down the road. I will leave it there and return here while I still have my mind. I'll burn this cabin down. Me, Sky, and hopefully the whole damn woods with that thing in it. I won't become whatever that thing was, Timothy. This curse will die with me. It'll die with us. Forgive me, Sky. I love you. Always. Dylan. Thank you, Dylan. Your testimony was one of the hardest I've read. But I felt you deserved to be heard. No matter what happened to you, I hope you have peace. Our next testimony is from Susan in Saskatchewan, Canada. Dear Timothy, my name is Susan, and I'm an investigative reporter. I've worked for a few papers, but the freelance work was my calling. That way, I don't need to bend to an editor's biases. One of the most criminally underreported things about this part of the Great White North is the alarming amount of Indigenous women that have gone missing, never to be found. Killers throughout the ages have taken advantage of the region's remoteness. No one seems to care. There are at least 2 people out there, though. Me and a killer who's left a trail of calling cards and breadcrumbs throughout the prairie. So far, he hadn't been active since the early 2000s, but I knew I was getting close. He couldn't help but leave a treasure hunt for someone to figure out. The last clue I'd found was a candle sitting in a pool of dried blood at an abandoned home in Edmonton. I pieced together the previous clues left in his crazed poems, and they led me to the woods far north of Candle Lake. There, at an abandoned cabin, I found the end of the trail. The place had been rotting for years. Nature had crept up its walls and through its windows, reclaiming it for the woodlands. Inside, I smelled a mix of moist, molding wood, formaldehyde, and a familiar smell of rot. Death was in the air. The entire place was lined with patches of strange leather. They were everywhere. On the walls, on the furnishings, even the lampshade was made from it. I tiptoed into the bedroom, holding my nose against the smell. Lying in the middle of the bed was a dusty corpse holding onto a leather-bound book. My heart leapt. I was sure that I'd found my guy, the killer of all those poor women. I gently pulled the book from the skeleton's hands and opened it up. It was full of scribbles, notes, more sick poetry and sketches. Page after page of designs for the furniture I'd seen in the cabin. I turned a few more, and that's when I found out what that leather really was. It was the skin of the killer's victims. I ran out of the cabin and vomited onto the forest floor outside. I took out my phone and started to snap pictures of the cabin. After composing myself, I went back inside to take more. That night, as I slept in my motel room, I had a terrible nightmare. I felt invisible hands all over me, cutting and tearing. I felt my skin being pulled off, needles poked into my eyelids. Knives and tongs were peeling away at every part of me, and I couldn't move. I woke up kicking and screaming, thrashing the sheets from the bed. I took a deep breath and composed myself. It was almost dawn, so I grabbed my phone and went back through my photos. Every single one of them had been wiped from my phone. Determined not to let that dead man get away with it, I immediately drove out to the cabin. I had every piece of recording equipment I brought with me this time. A digital video camera, an old film camera, and even a Polaroid for instant shots. I called it in with the police when I got there. While I waited for them to show, I got as many pictures as possible. Thankfully, I still have them. I can't bring those women back, Timothy, but I can at least get some closure to loved ones. With all the evidence gathered, it doesn't matter if the killer can erase those pictures from the afterlife. Truth is out there now, and I hope he rots in hell. Yours, Susan. Thank you for your testimony, Susan. The sick and psychotic stain our mortal realm with their depravity and hunger for suffering. Even after they have left this living world, it is essential to remove their power and remind them that they are mere souls drifting into the afterlife. Our next testimony comes from Hal in Louisiana. Dear Timothy, my name is Hal, and over one summer I took some friends for a trip out to a cabin my family had in Red River. I'd inherited it from my grandpa, but he'd never used or mentioned it. My dad said that he had been out there for a family vacation once, and the place was pretty well maintained. The cabin was more luxurious than I'd imagined. I'd seen the photos, but it was so much grander in person. It was bright and open, with enough rooms for everyone to have one each. While Jake and Cindy were fooling around in their room, I saw Tiff looking through the bookshelves and photo albums. She turned around when she spotted me walking over. "Oh, sorry. I forgot this was your family's place," she said. "Don't worry. This is the first time I've actually been here," I admitted. Tiff showed me one of the photo albums she found. They were packed with tattered old black and white photos. I didn't recognize anyone in them. "Hey, look," Tiff said, pointing at one of the young men standing by the river and smiling. "He kinda looks like you." I squinted at the photo but couldn't see the resemblance. We turned a few more pages and the pictures started to get stranger and darker. The light-hearted humor left the room when we began to see clan robes and a burning cross. I was suddenly highly conscious of Tiff being a black woman, and here I was, whiter than mayonnaise, looking at family photos full of Klansmen. I started to stammer. "Hey, it's cool. Don't worry. It's not like it's you or anything," Tiff said reassuringly. That night, while the four of us settled in to play some drinking games, huddled on the sofas, we heard a commotion from the open lawn outside. I got up to check. Peering out the window, I saw figures in robes, each holding a torch. "Is that the fucking Klan?" Jake shouted. "Call the cops," Cindy yelled, but none of us could get cell service. One of the Klansmen lit a pyre in the middle of the lawn. A giant cross burst into flames and lit up the night. I could feel the heat of it, even through the windows. Then the robed figures start to march slowly towards the cabin. Jake and I stepped out to confront them. I yelled at them to leave my property. They kept walking, so I moved to shove the closest one to me. The hood figure grabbed my arm, and it sizzled like bacon on a frying pan. I screamed in pain and yanked a man's hood. I was looking at a skull when it came off in my hand. No eyes, no flesh. Just deep dark pits of eye sockets. A skeleton walking. The robed skeleton let go, and Jake and I retreated into the cabin. As they closed in, they flung their torches onto the porch, and fire started to spread. I looked down at my arm. A blackened, bloody brand of a circled cross had formed on it. It hurt like hell, throbbing waves of agony up my entire arm. A honking car sounded over the roaring flames from outside. I could hear Tiff screaming at us to get in. We clambered out of the cabin's rear window, scrambled for the car, and sped off down the dirt track. "You saw that, right? You saw its face?" I asked Jake. "Dude, I don't know what I saw," he said. "It's been a few years since then." Jake and Cindy never lasted. and we drifted apart after graduating. Tiff and I, though, we kept in touch. We've been dating for a few years now. Despite having the sins of my ancestors branded on my arm, she loves me all the same. We never did go back to the cabin. The insurance paid out, and I sold the land. I took enough for me and Tiff to get our own place and donated the rest. A final fuck you to those old racists. Yours sincerely, Hale. Thank you, Hale, for your testimony. Though we are never beholden to the misdeeds of our ancestors, sometimes, as their descendants, it's up to us to correct a legacy and amend the foul marks they made upon the spiritual plane. Our final testimony of the evening comes from Olivia in California. Dear Timothy, I'm Olivia. I want to tell the truth, our truth, for my friend Jackie. She didn't deserve to die the way she did. We'd rented a motorhome for a week and were hiking around Lake Tahoe. It was only our second day there when we were deep in the woods, in the sweltering August heat. We had at least enough water and snacks for a day, and I'd brought a satellite phone for emergencies. Jackie was the first to see the smoke on the horizon. It was right in our path, but we figured it wasn't the trail itself. Half an hour after heading down the trail towards it, the sky filled with black smoke. It almost blocked the sun. We discussed our options and figured that it was best to turn back. If it really was a wildfire, we needed to move fast. The fire moved with purpose. Like it had a mind, it had beaten us and blocked the route. Our only option was to head deeper into the woods. So, exhausted, thirsty, and panicked, we headed north where we thought the nearest road was. As dusk began to fall, we came across a small cabin. "Is that a ranger station?" I asked. "I don't know," Jackie said. "We can't keep going. We need to rest or we'll end up lost in the dark." The fire was miles behind us. So we entered the small cabin. The only thing inside of it was a table and a few chairs. No camp cots or anything to sleep on, so we huddled on the floor. After a rough night, we both got up to assess our situation. Smoke was rising up in every direction. We were surrounded on all sides. I called 911 on the satellite phone. After being passed between different services, they told us we were stuck in a massive wildfire. We could only sit tight and wait. 2 days went by while the flames raged all around us. Our food and water was gone, and we were desperate. No one could get to us. In the middle of the third night, I woke up to find Jackie smashing at the table with one of the chairs. "Jackie, what are you doing?" I asked in a hoarse voice. She ignored me and carried on breaking the table. "Jackie, stop!" I yelled as I tried to grab the chair from her. In a fit of feral rage, she turned and hit me with the chair. I saw burning, animalistic anger in her eyes. The warmth of her soul was gone. She took a breath and put the chair down. I put my hand to my head and felt the warm trickle of blood on my palm. Jackie's face turned blank. Without saying a word, she opened the door and entered the night. "Jackie," I rasped weakly. She didn't listen. I watched as my friend trudged out into the dark woods. The next thing I remember was a sweaty, dirt-covered fireman standing over me, gently offering me water. "You're gonna be okay, Olivia. We found you. Can you tell us what happened to your friend?" he asked. "Jackie?" I asked through my parched, dry throat. "Yeah. It's Jackie, right?" he asked again, but I was too weak to say anything. I was in and out of consciousness as they carried me out of the cabin. I saw charred, leafless trees all around me. As my rescuers lugged me down the trail, I looked back towards the cabin. Standing in the clearing was Jackie, burnt to a crisp, missing her hair and covered in the molten polyester of her hiking gear. Staring at me with her deep blue eyes, it was unmistakably her. "Jackie," I croaked. "That was the last time I saw her, Timothy. I don't know what caused her to crack like that. Cabin fever, maybe. Maybe she thought we were both already dead. Either way, my friend didn't walk out into the burning woods. She had already gone. Yours, Olivia." Thank you for your testimony, Olivia. The human mind is a fragile thing. Guard it well, listeners. Not even the paranormal is necessary to break it. This concludes the evening's testimonies. If you enjoyed this evening on Ghostly Broadcast, Paranormal Station, consider a like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon to be notified when our latest broadcasts go live. Our work logging the supernatural is significantly helped by your support, dear listeners, and we will continue to bring you haunting testimonies from all corners of the globe. Good night, listeners, and take care. This is Timothy on my farm, signing off.